Please, Mama, don't do it, Adana screamed, falling to her knees in the red dust. Above her, a heavy wooden bat rose high into the air. Mama Ngozi's eyes burned with pure hate. You think you are better than us because of this trash? She shouted. Adana looked at the small red car she spent 2 years building. It was her only escape from this hell. Crack. The wood smashed down. But Mama Ngozi made a fatal mistake. She didn't know who was watching from the black SUV behind the fence, and that mistake was about to cost her everything she owned. Friend, before we see how justice was served, welcome to... I want to know where my family is watching from today. Are you in the United States, South Africa, Nigeria, or Germany? Tell me in the comments right now. And please, do not break the circle of support. Subscribe to the channel so we can keep telling the truth. Most people in the village of Umanede believed that an orphan was born to suffer. They thought that if you had no parents, you had no future. But Adana was about to prove that gold can be found even in the dirtiest mud. The afternoon sun was burning hot, hot enough to dry a river. But for 10-year-old Adana, there was no rest. Her small hands were raw and red from scrubbing heavy blankets in a tin bucket. Faster, you useless thing, a voice boomed from the veranda. Mama Ngozi sat in the shade, fanning herself. Next to her sat Chidi, Adana's stepsister. Chidi was eating a ripe, juicy mango, letting the yellow juice drip onto her clean dress. She laughed as she threw the mango skin at Adana's head. Miss Engineer, Chidi mocked. Maybe you can build a machine to wash these clothes so you can be lazy like a queen. Adana said nothing. She kept her head down. She knew the rule. Silence is safety. If she spoke, she would get the cane. If she cried, she would get no dinner. I am talking to you, Mama Ngozi shouted, kicking the bucket of soapy water over. Wash them again, and if I see one spot, you will sleep outside with the goats. Adana looked at the spilled water soaking into the dry ground. Her heart felt heavy, like a stone in her chest. But deep inside her eyes, there was a strange light. It was a light that Mama Ngozi could not see, and definitely could not understand. Adana wasn't just a servant. She was a genius in hiding. Later that night, the village went quiet. The crickets began their song. Mama Ngozi's loud snoring echoed from the main house. This was the moment Adana waited for all day. She crept out of her mat, moving as silent as a ghost. She didn't go to the kitchen to steal food, even though her stomach was empty. She went behind the old broken shed where the unwanted trash was kept. She pulled back a pile of dry banana leaves. There it was. It looked like a pile of junk to anyone else. Old tomato tins, rusted bicycle spokes, and wires from a broken radio. But to Adana, it was a masterpiece. She picked up a screwdriver she had sharpened on a rock. Her hands stopped shaking, her pain disappeared. She was building a car. Not a toy to push in the sand, but a machine with a real engine powered by the sun. She connected a blue wire to a small motor she found in a dump site 2 years ago. The wheel spun, whir. It was a perfect sound. She smiled. This machine was her ticket out. It was her secret weapon against the poverty that tried to choke her. But as she tightened the last screw, she didn't hear the dry leaves crunching behind her. Someone was awake, and secrets in this house were dangerous things to keep. Adana held the cold metal of the car's frame against her cheek. It smelled like rust and old oil, but to her, it smelled like memories. 3 years ago, before the sickness took him, her father had been the best mechanic in the region. He didn't leave her money or land. He left her something more dangerous, a blue wrench and a brilliant mind. Distinct mechanics, he used to tell her, tapping her forehead. The world sees trash, we see treasure. Adana wiped a tear from her eye. She looked down at the car. It wasn't just a toy, it was a promise. She had built it using the science books she read secretly at the village school window. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, flat square. It was a solar panel she had salvaged from a broken street lamp thrown in the bush. With steady hands, she connected the red wire to the blue wire. Click. For a moment, nothing happened. Adana held her breath. Had she failed? Was she just a foolish girl playing in the dirt? Then a soft hum began. Zzz. The back wheels of the small car began to spin. They didn't just spin, they moved with power. The car crawled forward on the dirt floor of the shed, moving all by itself. It worked. Adana grabbed the car before it hit the wall. A smile broke across her face, the first real smile in months. This machine was proof that she was not a slave. She was an inventor. "We are going to the city," she whispered to the machine. "We are going to get the scholarship." But as she disconnected the wire to save power, a cold wind blew through the cracks of the wooden shed. The hairs on her arms stood up. It felt like a warning. Adana quickly covered the car with an old sack. She didn't know why, but she suddenly felt very afraid. It wasn't the fear of being beaten, it was the fear of losing the only friend she had left. And she was right to be afraid, because in this house, happiness was a crime. The next morning, the village market was loud and chaotic. Adana walked quickly, balancing a heavy tray of groundnuts on her head. Her neck hurt, but her mind was racing. She had to find a way to enter the competition. As she passed the butcher's stall, a piece of paper on the ground caught her eye. A man had used it to wrap peppers, but he had dropped it. Adana bent down, pretending to fix her sandal, and snatched the paper. She smoothed it out against her leg. Her heart stopped. National Young Inventors Competition. Grand prize, full university scholarship. Judges visiting Umunete Village Center tomorrow. Tomorrow. Adana felt dizzy. The judges were coming here. This was it. This was the miracle she prayed for every night. But the car wasn't ready. It looked ugly, just a skeleton of rusted metal. The judges wouldn't look twice at it. It needed to look professional. It needed a body. She ran the rest of the way home, selling her groundnuts faster than ever before. When she got back to the compound, she saw an old, dried-up can of red paint behind the latrine. It was left over from when they painted the gate years ago. She shook the can. It was heavy. There was still paint inside. That night, while Mom and Ngozi and Chidi watched a movie on their small television, Adana slipped back to the shed. She worked like a woman possessed. She cut flattened tomato tins to make the car's body. She hammered them smooth with a rock wrapped in cloth so it wouldn't make noise. Then she dipped a stick into the thick red paint. Stroke by stroke, the ugly rust disappeared. The car transformed. It became a shining, bright red machine. It looked fierce. It looked fast. It looked like victory. Adana stepped back, her hands covered in sticky red paint. She was exhausted, but her spirit was soaring. She pushed the car deep under a pile of broad banana leaves in the darkest corner of the shed. "Sleep well," she whispered. "Tomorrow you save us." She crept back to the house, her heart pounding a rhythm of hope. But in her rush, she forgot to check one thing. She didn't check the dirt outside the shed for footprints. If she had, she would have seen that she wasn't the only one who had visited the shed that evening. The rooster crowed, announcing the morning of the competition. Adana woke up with a jump. Today was the day. She rushed to the kitchen to start the fire before Mama Ngozi woke up. She needed to be perfect today. No mistakes, no reasons to be punished. But as she reached for the firewood, a heavy hand grabbed her wrist. "Stop right there," a voice hissed. It was Mama Ngozi. She was standing in the doorway, her wrapper tied loosely around her chest. Her eyes were not sleepy. They were sharp and dangerous. She pulled Adana's hand up into the light. "What is this?" Mama Ngozi asked, her voice low and scary. Adana froze. On the side of her thumb, there was a smear of dried red paint. She had scrubbed her hands with sand, but she missed a spot. I cut myself, Mama. It is blood," Adana lied, her voice shaking. Mama Ngozi leaned closer. She smelled the paint. She knew the smell. "You think I am a fool?" Mama Ngozi twisted Adana's ear hard. Adana gasped, but bit her lip to stop the scream. "You have been touching things you should not touch," Mama Ngozi whispered into her ear. "I told you, your job is to serve this family, not to play with trash." She let go of Adana's ear and grabbed her fingers, squeezing them until the knuckles cracked. "If I catch you wasting time again," Mama Ngozi said, looking deep into Adana's soul, "I will break these hands. Then you will be useless to everyone. Do you hear me?" "Yes, Mama," Adana cried softly. "Get to work." Mama Ngozi turned and walked away. Adana held her throbbing hand against her chest, breathing fast. That was too close. She looked up and saw Chidi standing by the water tank. Chidi wasn't laughing this time. She was staring at Adana with a strange look. It wasn't pity, it was curiosity. Chidi's eyes moved from Adana's red-stained thumb to the old shed in the backyard. Then a slow, wicked smile spread across Chidi's face. Adana felt a cold shiver run down her spine. The warning had been given, but the real trap was just being set. The village of Umanete was dark. The only light came from the half-moon hanging low in the sky. Adana lay on her mat, listening. She counted the seconds. 1, 2, 3. Mama Ngozi's snoring was loud and steady. Chidi's breathing was soft. It was time. Adana sat up. Her heart was beating so hard she was afraid it would wake them up. She needed to check the solar connection one last time. If a wire was loose, the car would stop in front of the judges, and her chance would be gone forever. She tiptoed past the sleeping bodies. She opened the back door. The rusted hinge squeaked. Creak. Adana froze. She held her breath for 10 seconds. Nobody moved. She slipped out into the cool night air. Behind the shed, she pulled back the banana leaves. The red car gleamed in the moonlight. It was beautiful. She touched the solar panel gently. She flipped the small switch. The engine purred to life. It was a smooth, quiet sound, like a contented cat. Adana smiled. It was perfect. She turned it off quickly to save the battery for the judges. "You are ready," she whispered. "Tomorrow we fly." She covered the car again and crept back to the house. She lay down and closed her eyes, dreaming of a university classroom and a clean uniform. But Adana made a terrible mistake. She thought she was the only one awake. In the dark corner of the room, a pair of eyes was open. Chidi had woken up to use the latrine. She had seen Adana leave. She had followed her to the window. Chidi had seen the red car. She saw how beautiful it was. She saw the light of genius that Adana had hidden. And Chidi felt a burning fire in her chest. It wasn't pride. It was pure, ugly jealousy. How could this servant girl build something so amazing? If Adana won, she would be the special one. She would leave the village. She would be better than Chidi. Chidi looked at her mother's sleeping form. A cruel plan formed in her mind. She crawled over to Mama Ngozi's bed and shook her shoulder gently. "Mama," she whispered, her voice dripping with poison. "Wake up. You need to see what the rat has been building in your backyard." The sun rose over the palm trees, painting the sky in orange and gold. It was the morning of the competition. Adana woke up with a burst of energy. She didn't feel tired. Today was the day her life would change. She quickly swept the compound and washed the plates, working twice as fast as usual. She needed to finish her chores so she could ask for permission to go to the village center. "I am done, Mama," Adana called out. The house was strangely quiet. Usually, Mama Ngozi would be yelling by now. Adana walked into the living room. It was empty. She checked the kitchen. Empty. A cold knot formed in her stomach. Something was wrong. She ran to the back door. It was wide open. Panic seized her throat. She sprinted to the old shed. Her feet kicked up dust as she ran. "Please let it be there. Please, God, let it be there," she prayed. She reached the hiding spot. She stopped dead. The banana leaves were scattered everywhere. The ground was marked with drag marks. The hiding spot was empty. The red car was gone. "No," Adana gasped. "No, no, no." Then she heard it, a loud, mocking laugh coming from the front of the compound. It was Chidi's laugh. Adana spun around and ran to the front yard. Her legs felt like jelly, but fear pushed her forward. She burst around the corner of the house and stopped. The scene before her broke her heart into 1,000 pieces. Mama Ngozi stood in the center of the yard. She looked like a giant. At her feet sat the beautiful red car. It looked so small and defenseless in the open dirt. Chidi was standing behind her mother, her arms crossed, a smug smile plastered on her face. She looked like a cat that had just caught a bird. "Going somewhere?" Mama Ngozi asked. Her voice was calm, which made it even more terrifying. "Mama, please," Adana stepped forward, her hand shaking. "That is mine. I made it." Mama Ngozi laughed. It was a dry, harsh sound. "You made it? With whose materials? My old tins, my wires? You are a thief, Adana." "I picked them from the trash," Adana cried. Mama Ngozi reached down, but she didn't pick up the car. She picked up a thick, heavy wooden pestle, the one used for pounding yam. Adana's eyes went wide. The air in the compound suddenly felt very thin. "In this house," Mama Ngozi said, lifting the heavy wood, "we do not tolerate thieves, and we do not tolerate dreamers who forget their place." "Please, Mama, don't do it," Adana screamed. She fell to her knees in the red dust. She clasped her hands together, begging. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the dirt. "It is for the competition. The judges are here. It is my future," Adana wailed. "If I win, I can help the family, please." Mama Ngozi's eyes were full of hate. She didn't care about money. She didn't care about the family. She only cared that this girl, this child she hated, dared to be great. "Your future?" Mama Ngozi shouted, her voice echoing off the walls. "Your future is cleaning my floor. Your future is serving my daughter." Chidi laughed from the veranda. "Tell her, Mama, she thinks she is an engineer." Mama Ngozi raised the heavy wooden pestle high into the air. Her muscles tightened. Adana looked at the red car. She saw the hours she spent cutting the metal. She saw the nights she spent wiring the engine. It was the only thing she loved. "No!" Adana screamed. Crack! The wood came down with terrifying force. It hit the center of the car. The red metal crumpled. The plastic windshield shattered. Smash! Mama Ngozi hit it again and again. She was like a wild animal. She destroyed the wheels. She flattened the roof. Adana collapsed on the ground, burying her face in the dirt. She couldn't watch. She could only hear the sound of her dream dying. Crunch, bang, crack. Finally, Mama Ngozi stopped. She was breathing hard. At her feet, the beautiful red car was just a pile of twisted metal and broken plastic. "There," Mama Ngozi spat. "Now go and wash the bathroom." Adana lay in the dirt, sobbing. Her body shook with grief. It was over. The scholarship was gone. Her life was over. Mama Ngozi turned to walk away, a victorious smile on her face. Chidi clapped her hands. But neither of them noticed that the main gate of the compound was open. They didn't notice the black luxury SUV that had parked silently outside. And they didn't see the tall man in a blue suit standing by the gate. He was holding a notebook. He was one of the judges. And he had seen every single second of the cruelty. The man didn't look happy. He looked furious. He pushed the gate open wider and stepped into the compound. His shoes crunched loudly on the gravel. Mama Ngozi froze. She turned around slowly. The smile dropped from her face. The judgment day had arrived, but not for the car. Mama Ngozi dropped the wooden pestle. It hit the ground with a dull thud. She wiped the sweat from her forehead and quickly fixed her wrapper. She forced a fake wide smile onto her face. "Welcome, sir, welcome," she said, her voice suddenly sweet like honey. "Please forgive the noise. I was just teaching this stubborn child a lesson. You know how children can be these days, always playing with trash." The man in the blue suit did not smile. He did not blink. He walked right past Mama Ngozi as if she was invisible. He walked straight to the pile of crushed red metal. Adana looked up through her tears. She was shaking with fear. Was this man going to punish her too? The man crouched down. He didn't look at the broken plastic or the flattened wheels. He reached his hand into the center of the wreckage. He pulled out the small motor and the solar panel. Miraculously, the heart of the machine was untouched. The man held the motor up to the sunlight. Whirr! The small gear began to spin. It spun faster and faster, humming with power. "Incredible," the man whispered. He stood up and looked at Mama Ngozi. His eyes were cold like ice. "You call this trash?" the man asked. His voice was quiet, but it carried a heavy authority. "Madame, I am Professor Bello, the head judge of the National Inventors Competition." Mama Ngozi's mouth fell open. Chidi stopped smiling. "I came early to see the village," Professor Bello continued, "and I have just witnessed a crime." It was just a toy," Mama Ngozi stammered, stepping back. "No," Professor Bello shook his head. "You destroyed the body of the car, but you could not destroy the engine, and you cannot destroy the gift that the Almighty has placed inside this girl's head." He turned to Adana and extended a hand. "Stand up, my child." Adana stood up, her knees trembling. "The scholarship is for the best engineering mind," Professor Bello announced. "You don't need to come to the competition tomorrow. You have already won." Adana gasped. She looked from the broken car to the man's kind face. Me? But I have nothing left. You have everything, he said. Get your things. You are leaving this house today. You cannot take her, Mom Ngozi shouted, panic rising in her voice. She is my daughter. She does the work. Professor Bello pulled a phone from his pocket. I have already called the divisional police officer. He is on his way to discuss child abuse and destruction of property. I suggest you find a lawyer instead of shouting. At that moment, the sound of a police siren wailed in the distance. Mom Ngozi collapsed onto the bench, burying her head in her hands. Chidi ran into the house, crying in fear. Adana didn't look back. She climbed into the black SUV. The air conditioning felt cool on her skin. As the car drove away, leaving the dust and the cruelty behind, Adana clutched the small blue wrench in her pocket. The car was broken, but she was fixed. Friend, thank you for staying with me to the very end of Adana's journey. She thought her life was over when the wood came down. She thought her hard work was wasted in the dirt. But the truth is, sometimes a breakdown is the only way to get a breakthrough. Her stepmother tried to bury her, not knowing that Adana was a seed. If you believe that strength isn't about how hard you fall, but how you get back up, then please tap subscribe and join our community. You won't want to miss the stories we share next. I've picked out another story just for you, and you should see it on the screen now. I hope to see you there. Remember this: gold does not stop being gold just because it is covered in mud.